Yeah, absolutely. And I think we're off. So it looks like both players are in German.
Everything that lives is designed to end.
And I'm sure we're going to end up touching over a lot of the tech and explanations that Tech and Mytherium went over last run, but just for the sake
some
of
kind of punishment?
getting it through, we're going to probably go over a couple for the new viewers tuning in and people who aren't familiar with the run, and we'll probably grab a couple things that they might have missed in the last run.
Yeah, and if you have any questions about something, feel free to ask in chat. I see Marble Soda's in there, so if we say something wrong, he can correct us.
Autopilot systems green across the board. This is Operator 60. All units confirmed. We've passed the 50-kilometer threshold and are proceeding toward the target. Understood.
This is definitely going to be an uphill battle for Tektheist, though, not going to lie. Mytherium has the 8th place time in this category, so...
And definitely, correct me if I'm wrong, but Mytherium's a pretty veteran runner to this game.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
So definitely, he's going to have that consistency down in his run. Not going to have to worry about consistency issues with the skip as much, whereas Tech, being a little bit newer than Mytherium, might have to worry about that.
So right away, you saw both of them change to weapon set 2. You get 2 weapon sets, and there's sort of a light weapon and a heavy weapon, and in Prologue you only have 2 weapons. You have the short sword and then the heavy sword, so they switched to weapon 2 so that they have the short sword in the heavy slot, and that's the best thing for combat and also for vertical movement. And I see, okay, so this category is ending a normal. It's just the first main ending of the game.
Down. Assuming captain's duties.
And there's a couple other things to the rulings of this category, like this is new game completely, as we can play this game in New Game Plus. Any weapon is allowed here. Glitches are allowed. Pretty much anything goes in this category for a ending any percent glitch.
Yeah, there's nothing banned.
The only things that I can think of would be Skype glitch, if I can imagine, or if I remember correctly.
Yeah, Skype glitch requires you to kind of set it up beforehand, so it's not really allowed in a new game category. So you'll see them intentionally taking damage and then using the healing items. They're just doing that to save menuing time. If you get rid of a couple of those items, you don't have to press down as many times to use the melee buffs.
It's a super micro optimization. It's not required, but I mean, while you're doing nothing else in the cutscene shmups anyways, you might as well get the time save where you can grab it.
Yeah, there are a lot of points where taking damage really doesn't waste any time, and then later on they will get the resistance chip, which is like as long as they're over, like I think it's 80% health. If they take damage, they don't get stunned. So you can just kind of tank damage and not have it affect your combat as long as you're above a certain amount of health.
So a lot of these opening shoot 'em up sequences are just trying to clear off every wave as quick as possible, as the next wave will spawn as soon as you kill all the enemies from the wave that you're currently working on. So just clearing the waves as fast as possible will just optimize your prologue efficiency completely.
And when you're in the shmup section, it has a lot of similarities to the ground-based combat. You have a light attack, a heavy attack, you have an evade, and you have kind of the pod fire. So you'll see them using a lot of light attacks in the shmup sections.
So now getting into the first third-person section of the game in the first silo.
So your standard combat is you do a dash and then a heavy right after, and what that does is that throws out the sword and it just spins in place, and that's what we refer to as damage glitch or damage exploit. It just basically does like 5 times the amount of damage that kind of the other attacks do.
And the optimal damage later in the run becomes double damage glitching, which essentially we just change both our weapon slots to be the same as having the light sword in the heavy slot, and you throw out one damage glitch and change your weapon slot, and you can essentially throw out another to have 2 swords spinning out at the same time.
Yeah, changing the weapon slots doesn't like despawn your sword that's already out, so it's very, very useful. It doesn't quite like double your DPS, but it's probably around like 1.5 times.
Definitely allows us to cycle through bosses in quite an easy way, even being underleveled.
In this fight right here, you have to wait for the pod program to be downloaded, so once the boss's sort of health bar goes away there, then you're just kind of waiting.
So we see both coming out about the same time on Marks 1, and we're going to start seeing the first section of the movement skips in this game.
Yeah, so if you sort of walk off a ledge and do a heavy attack, you'll gain a little height, and you can do what's called a lift afterwards, which is just jump, and heavy attack, which is the other reason that we use this weapon setup with a small sword in the heavy slot.
Do it.
And so these enemies on a Mytherium screen and Tektheist are called stubbies, and they're probably the hardest non-boss enemies. They have 2 separate attacks. Just on these flyers, though, the strategy is to kind of get them lined up so that you can take out multiple ones with just one laser. But the stubbies, the moving stubbies, they can either jump backwards as you're attacking them, and then you lose time, you have to do another damage glitch, or they can do what's called a whirly arms, which causes you to constantly either get locked in hit stun or evade constantly.
So now both players coming up on bridge skip, a pretty difficult movement skip in the game, just due to the timing. You have to try and delay your initial lift as late as possible to get the most height, and then it's just a bit of delaying your aerials to space them out to get the optimal heights. One of the highest high jumps in the game, and it just happens to be right. Yeah, for sure.
And then you saw them kind of clip out of the ceiling there. They went in so they're wedged in the corner, and then by doing like a heavy attack and jumping into the ceiling, they're actually able to clip out and then just dash through.
I know.
Both players having a pretty solid prologue here, very neck and neck, within a second of each other.
Tektheist actually took the lead on bridge skip there, which kind of shows you how hard of a trick it is. That it took Mytherium a couple tries, even being such an experienced runner.
Now, I'm not too sure how Mytherium or how Tech runs his strats, seeing as he's on PS4 and he's running RTA. I'm not sure if he'll do save scum strats, because I still think we are timing it for loadless. We just have to go through his VOD and time it out. But it'll be interesting to see if he does anything different to the normal loadless strats.
And looks like he's going for the Ingle swag here. Let's see if he gets it. Nicely done.
Very nice.
So if you do that like optimally, you're only saving a second at most, so some definite swag.
There should be another facility across that bridge. It's a bit of a hike, but should we
And then
check
you
it
saw Mytherium do the
It's not like command to
the
get a
save normal
location
strat.
wrong. I guess even they get bad intel
Surprisingly
by the
close
time
race so
wrong.
far. I mean, we're less than 10 minutes in, but we're still within a couple seconds of each other.
That's very close. We'll see what happens. We'll see if one of them gets punches during the Ingalls fight. That'll, at this point, that'll make a big difference.
I'll just take him out.
So you'll see them throwing out damage glitches early while the saw's kind of moving around. And if you get good hits in with that, you don't actually need to use your melee buff. So it looks like they've both got it buffless, which is nice. This is really close.
Very, very close. So for those who don't know, Engels has a couple different attack patterns that he throws out. The ones initially don't matter too much until you hit the cutscene. That's when it does matter that one attack move he chooses to do after 9S enters the scene. And there's a couple options you can get. Ideally, you'll want to get one of the projectile attack patterns, as they'll be the shortest. And then there's punches as well, which will lose you about 23 seconds time.
Yeah, it's bad. I got it in my race a couple hours ago, actually. It's a really bad feeling.
And as Tech and Mytherium stated in their commentary, like it's a lot better. Like there's not a whole bunch of RNG in this game like that, where it's just a definitive time loss. There's nothing you can do about it. And it's nice that it's this short into the run, not like an hour and a half into your run where you'd have to reset just because of bad RNG.
Yeah, and this part is completely timed, so you know based on the music when the cutscene's going to start. So you're free to use all the slow-mo that you want here because it doesn't affect anything. It's actually better if you get punches to use the slow-mo just so you can get enough damage.
Now we should explain what slow-mo actually is. So when you use your pod program, you essentially you start charging up the laser, and everything around you in the environment will slow down except for you. It was meant to be sort of a cinematic effect, but we can use it to essentially slow down enemy attacks, and it's kind of just a quality of life thing.
Yeah, and both players actually got the same attack, so that's kind of rare.
Still very neck and neck here. Both players opting for different swag options on the pipe. Which one do you think's better, MT? Left or right pipe?
Left pipe all day. And then here it's just you're just waiting. There's nothing that you can do to speed this up. I think the only thing that you can do is be in the middle when Engels finishes like bringing his arm back off the ground.
Hacking in.
Nine S black box signal detected. No response.
So coming up here, we have our first sort of like movement or like vertical tech. It's called a double lift. If you're kind of moving up a slope when you do a lift, you'll become grounded again after you start the first lift, and then you'll be able to do a second lift in midair. So that's kind of important there. Looks like Tektheist wasn't able to get the cutscene skip. So Mytherium might pull ahead here.
Very nice angles, or very nice ninjas from both of them. Not too much dodging out of the way of the lasers. We're able to clear it out pretty quickly.
And I think you saw one of the examples of whirly arms where you try and throw out your sword and you just invade instead because he's attacking in such close proximity to you. And then in this section, this is kind of timed as well. You're waiting for dialogue to finish, so there's nothing to really do except just do damage and hope you get lucky with the attack patterns.
I found a weakness in the target.
I'm interested to see if we'll get any. I'm waiting for somebody to hit it in the tournament races, but we'll see if anybody gets the double hit angle swing. I know a couple of us have been looking into it a little bit more, but it's a pretty tight timing window from what we can see, and it's not very easy to hit.
Yeah, I think the frame window is very tight on that, and that's just normally it takes 3 hits to finish them off, but if you attack again on like the right frame or right 2 frames, you'll hit him twice at like the same time, so it basically only takes 2 attacks. So not a huge time save, but
Upper arm.
no real risk in going for it for time loss either.
Point. Got it.
So we'll see if Mytherium gets it here.
See this control system.
Affirmative. Infiltrating enemy subunit. Behavior table adjusted. Balance controls
Nope.
overridden. Enemy unit subjugation.
So it looks like Mytherium's going to pull out a prologue about 5 or 7 seconds ahead.
Something like that. So you'll see him just do a double jump. Usually there are a lot of like triggers in this game that you hit them and then you go into like a slow walk animation and it takes a really long time. So you'll see people either do like a double jump or do a pod launch or do like a running heavy attack or something like that just to kind of get to the end point as fast as possible instead of having to wait for that slow walk. And it's the same thing with cutscenes. You'll have the slow walk into the cutscene. And then we just have the menuing section of the run. You change your brightness, change your audio volume, and set self-destruct. It's actually very easy to mess this part up. Yeah, you see, it took Mytherium 2 tries to get the self-destruct enabled. And then here we just have some mashing. After all this dialogue is over, I'm pretty sure Mytherium's going to do the dialogue skip. So he's going to just move in a particular way and then self-destruct and talk to 9S and then slowly walk forward. And that will enable him to skip. Okay, he's not going to do it. Never mind. We'll see if Tektheist does it. I'm not sure if he does that or not.
Nice.
Huh?
There-
Oh, wait.
Yeah. So when you have that kind of the partner dialogue up, if you're walking into a dialogue trigger, it'll actually just skip it completely.
Understood.
So that's used in a couple places. If you ever see them talking to the NPC, that's the
means we'll be
reason.
getting
Is
flight
they're
units, huh?
skipping dialogue
Better head
somewhere.
for the hangar. Usually we can't get near flight units. They're way too expensive for us grunts. Too bad they can't mass produce these things yet.
Then we have another short SMUP section here. Nothing really difficult. One thing to note is that you don't have any healing items at this point, so it is possible to die here. So just something to keep in mind if you see somebody taking damage.
Hey, 2B, why do you think they sent a combat model like you to a recon job? If all they want is intel, we scanner models are built for that kind of thing.
Orders are orders.
All right, all right.
You're going to have some new weaponry installed.
And then you
from here on
kind of
out.
see some
Put up
different
instructions
strats
for you.
here. Tektheist used the pod program, which is where all the missiles come out. He used that immediately to take care of the first wave. And Mytherium opted to do the like heavy attack spin instead. And then after they clear out these kind of basic flyers, they're going to use the pod program again on, I guess, what we call fidget spinners. The sort of four-pronged flyers here.
What I would say almost the second most annoying mob in the game, at least for me.
Oh, they're
Because if
awful.
you don't kill them in time, they end up flying away and costing you about 5 seconds, and they typically tend to just spin on you whenever they want to and ruin up your attack timings.
Discovering their position. Understood.
Mytherium with some movement flubs here. That's kind of unexpected. So big plunge off of this building. Plunge is a very fast movement technique. So we'll use plunges whenever possible, just to go fast.
Nice thing about using the plunges too is it will get you down there very quickly, and then when you're at the bottom you can actually buffer and evade out of it to keep your movement going fluidly. There is a small startup time on it, so the less plunges you can get, the better to do a certain task. but still a very fast option altogether.
According to
Yeah,
our
you're not going to
intel,
want to do
none
it
of those
from the
machines in
ground,
this
but if you're
area
coming
are
off
hostile.
a
We've been
decently
seeing
high
more and
ledge,
more
then
enemies
it's
like
definitely a
this
good
lately.
thing.
They just stand there and stare into space.
So now we're starting the side quest pickups, which are actually main quests. You have to do them to proceed with the main storyline, but they're just going to go and do some item grabs here after dialoguing through all the menus.
Yeah, you're basically
So
forced to do
is the
this to gain
Resistance
access to
camp,
the
huh?
item shop
We
and the
should
weapon
probably go talk
shop.
to their leader first
It's not
thing.
too bad because doing the quest gives you the materials that are required in order to upgrade Virtuous Contact, which is the short sword, to level 2. So all in all, it's doesn't take too long.
Yeah, this section is just essentially having fluid movement throughout the city ruins, skipping over some barricades and just picking up the drops as fast as possible.
And then once you get back, you also need to have sort of good mashing and
This
good
must have been quite a city once
like
upon a
dialogue
time.
menuing, like accepting the quest
vegetation's
instead of
claimed most
denying
of
it and
the
have to
ground.
mash through the dialogue again, which is very easy to do.
Operator 60 to 2B.
Now, one thing that tends to happen sometimes with the quest
This is
Mytherium is
2B.
coming up on
Heading to
is
report.
you kill the stubbies to get the drops for the weapon supply traders quest.
It's fine.
Sometimes
Does that question
you'll
have anything
grab
to do with
2
our
of the same
operation?
drop though,
Not
and
I just figured
not
it
get
might
the
feel
quest
nice
that
to
you
have
need to
some
get.
together.
So
Really
hopefully
nice
nothing.
if you
It
know
doesn't
where
happen
our
too often.
operations.
Hopefully it doesn't happen
That
to
should
him
be
here.
enough. Let's get these back to the trader.
It's just an issue of realizing you've done it
Most of
and
the
then
central area.
actually getting the proper
Big
drop.
plants, too.
Yeah, I think Mytherium just got a troll drop there. Sometimes the enemies can drop items that aren't the quest items, but you think they are because it's sort of uncommon. There's also some stuff that can happen where like one of the quest items falls in a bush and then you're just running around in circles trying to figure out where it is.
Now, I think it would be good to explain the movement that you see the players doing. What essentially is the running is technically the fastest movement option in the game, but it's inefficient because it takes time to get up to running full speed. And the other issue is when you're running at full speed, if you do anything like jump or try and move around, it cancels out that speed you've gotten up to. So a lot of the time, we can't keep a run going long enough for it to be efficient. So the next fastest method would be to do dash swinging.
Yeah, and you just saw what I was talking about, where you accidentally decline the quest, and then you have to go through the dialogue again. It's really annoying. So just some sort of small mistakes from Mytherium. If Tektheist is playing really well, he might be able to pull off the upset if something bad happens.
Yeah, definitely a very close race. Any little soft lock or setback of anything will have Tektheist right up ahead of Mytherium.
Yeah, a death could definitely mean a lead change here. Mytherium, though, he does run very hard, which is where like getting hit is you're dead. So I wouldn't expect him to die, but again, anything's possible in a race. And then right now they're just traveling towards the desert. They're gonna stop at this merchant and buy some things. They're gonna buy some medium recovery, some small melee buffs, small range buffs. They're gonna buy the sachet so that they can approach animals. They're gonna buy an animal bait so they can ride the animal, and they're gonna buy the resistance ship, which they are going to equip later. That's what I was talking about, where if you have over a certain amount of HP and you get hit, it doesn't stagger you, and you can continue with your attack animations.
Definitely a very important chip, and fun little note is that in the old run, we actually didn't used to get the resilience chip because we do all of our item buying back at the resistance camp before we left for the desert. And it involved a method of going and baiting an animal to get there instead, because I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, there wasn't the desert barricade skip known at the time.
It was, but it just wasn't something that had been timed. I think that like clip out of bounds. Well, it's because we do like a save and load basically. I think that it's useful. I'm really not sure. The route change was months ago. Oh, and Mytherium voiding out on the desert discovery skip. That's the one reason that I still don't do the strat, just because the out of bound like floors in this game are like incredibly misleading. There'll be a ground texture, but you'll just fall off before it ends. It's extremely annoying to me anyway. And we see the same thing happen to Tektheist.
Unfortunate.
But yeah, we've kind of ignored the out of bounds stuff. Basically, walls in this game are more like suggestions. There are a lot of out of bounds clips.
This sand sure is slippery.
That mostly involve kind of doing a plunge, or doing a pod launch, or doing what we call a heavy hold. You just hold forward and heavy attack, and there's a point in that attack where you just get a ton of forward velocity, which lets you clip out a lot of places.
Now we're going to see Mytherium coming up on Stupid Rock here. TM.
Careful. We've got enemies approaching.
Very nice Stupid Rock.
Yeah, you have to wait for that enemy to burrow. So you lose control once he burrows. So doing that plunge against that rock there, it just lets you get farther in.
So Mytherium slowly pulling his lead ahead here. Just a bit smoother on his movement options, has given him probably about a 15-second advantage over Tech here.
Nice Stupid Rock by Tektheist as well.
And Mytherium's now coming up on the Desert Housing skip. It's a 3-part skip where you go out of bounds in this apartment building that he's running through right now, and essentially ignore most of the other desert that you would run through chasing a specific robot through all these tunnels and everything. Saves a lot of time by just clipping through and running straight to Atom Pit, and you'll see him coming up on this skip right here. This is a dialogue trigger that's in the tunnel at the roof of Atom Pit. He's just going to hit it and then go straight to Atom Pit.
And
very nice platform.
He got the plunge underneath the platform, which saves time as opposed to landing on it and waiting for it to break before you fall. So very nice. He's going to change his first weapon set to be the same as the second. That'll allow him to do the what we call the double damage glitch, where he throws out a sword, changes weapon sets, throws out another one, and just repeats that over and over again. So right there on Mytherium's screen, he's trying to kill that one enemy with the quest marker over it as fast as possible. And then this section here is just a set amount of time. So the best thing to do is just kill as many robots as possible and try and get as much experience as you can, because you want to be level 8 for the boss fight after Adam.
Yeah, essentially you just want to farm as fast as possible, because on top of getting the XP for killing as many stubbies as you can, you're also going to get a chance at plug-in chip drops. You'll get a chance for criticals, which can definitely help speed up your run. You'll clip them later. Essentially, just the more you kill, the more likely you'll have a drop chance of getting it.
Yeah, and this section has auto-looting, so you don't actually have to pick anything up. And I think you also pick up the item twice for some reason. Mytherium also SDing there just to take out some more enemies, get some more experience. This Atom fight here, what Mytherium's going to try to do is skip a phase, skip the sword dodge cutscene, so we'll see if he gets it. He does. Nicely done. This is one of the harder bosses in the game, in my opinion, to do well.
So you'll see Mytherium now lining up a pod laser shot. You can charge up 2 lasers and then switch over to your second pod and shoot off a third one. And if Adam is taunted and you're buffed, you should be able to skip this phase that Mytherium's on completely. Unfortunately, It looks like he did mess it up.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened there. It looked like he hit him with 3 lasers, which should be enough. Maybe the last one was a little bit too late. Not sure. but good final phase. We'll see how Tech does on this.
Now, coming up here is a strat that we will see. It's commonly used for saving time on loadless, just because of how it sets up. When both of them were running to the desert zone, they both picked up a transporter, allowing them to save. Essentially, they're going to try and clip into the wall through this box here and get within range of the save point that they took, save their game, and then load up the game to save all the running time and the dialogue in between the two. I think it saves about 20 seconds, if I remember correctly.
Something like that. Nice fight by Tech, by the way. So you see him do a pod launch here to clip out of bounds. The timing on that is actually kind of tight. You don't want to actually clip all the way through the box.
Looks like we're safe now.
So Mytherium's at the point where he's able to save, and then he's going to load.
It's a
Save some
very
time.
clean save scum.
I don't know if Tech's going to do that or not.
So we can contact command.
Yeah, that is what I was curious about earlier in the run, is if he does implement these loadless strats into his RTA runs.
We'll see.
Looks like he is going to go for it.
Second try, pretty good. Okay, so he's not actually going to do the load, he's just clipping out of bounds, because I think that still saves like a couple seconds, just because it's a more direct path. This route that Mytherium's having a bit of trouble with, it's actually kind of tricky. The geometry is really weird on that.
They can honestly be very terrible sometimes. Sometimes it'll lock you onto the route and you'll be able to run up, no problem. Other times it just does not want to work for you and you'll end up sliding off the side of it.
So Mytherium's going to try and do a plunge and SD cancel that just to get down to the sewer as fast as possible. Sliding down the ladder is very slow. I think the thing with SD is it self-destruct will preserve your it'll preserve your momentum from whatever you were doing before you pressed it. So you'll see that in a couple places, just to maintain like a high amount of speed.
I heard something about that back at the resistance camp.
Now I'm curious if either Tech or Mytherium has practiced up on the auto scroller coaster skip. I'm not expecting to see it run by very many runners in this tournament, as it's pretty new tech and it is decently complicated.
But we androids were modeled after our
But it's always interesting to see who decides to go for it and not. Like, I was not expecting Questka to go for it in his run this morning.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy. I was able to watch part of that. That kind of changes things a lot when you have access to the spear for movement. Looks like Mytherium is going for the roller coaster skip here.
Now, I don't know the skip as well, so maybe you want to explain how it works.
I don't really
even
understand it too much either. There's a few triggers that you have to hit, and then you have to sort of touch the roller coaster and then get off of it before you get locked on. Mytherium unfortunately was not able to get it. It's really difficult, I'd say, just from watching videos of people explain it and practice it.
Essentially, though, if you do manage to get off the roller coaster, you have two options. You can either go for the spear or you can kill the tank for the extra experience. It's up to you. I think Canaris was working on trying to get both before the auto-scroller ends.
Looks like Tech's going for it as well. We'll see if he has better execution here. Oh no. Unfortunately, he was not able to get it either. Like I said, it's very difficult to actually pull that off.
So now we're coming up on what I want to say is one of my personal favorite bosses in the game, at least in terms of first playthrough value.
Absolutely.
It was one of those moments of playing the game.
Oh,
it was that big oh god moment with the music and everything lined up.
So Mytherium actually missed the there's a trigger that you have to hit in order for the roller coaster to stop at the boss location, and he was not able to hit that. So that's another, yeah, that's what he's gonna do right now. Actually, it looks like, okay. Oh, I see what happened. Okay. Yeah, this is pretty new, so I honestly don't know much about this, but looks like it worked out fine. So Mytherium is level 8 for this, which is good. You want to damage her down to sort of when the HP bar disappears. I don't know, I guess we just call it the like phase threshold or the HP threshold to where the phases change. But you want her to stay close to the stage so that she has a shorter distance to travel. So Mytherium pulled that off really well.
I love this music here.
Tektheist is only level 7, I believe, so he might have a bit of a harder time. He might have to... Oh no, he is level 8, so he should be okay as well. If you're only level 7, you have to utilize some like slowdown in order to ensure that she doesn't move very far away. At least that's what I'm forced to do.
Like not getting as close of a Beauvoir to the stage after the spinning attack, so it'll lose him 1 or 2 seconds, not that much though. Still a very close race between the two. We'll see on the hacking stage, depending on how that goes. Get hacked a couple of times, it could definitely even right back up for Tech.
Yeah, it's kind of a trolley section where it's sometimes you'll sort of get sniped by the hacking rays or the like the sort of shockwave. And then each time that you get hit with that, it loses a pretty significant amount of time.
They've been turned into weapons. All right, this ends now.
So right after you defeat the boss, you'll see them use a self-destruct, and that's for use later. Going back to Pascal's village. Once you leave Pascal's village, you're going to go back to Resistance Camp, and then you have to go back to Pascal's village. So instead of running there or using an animal, it's faster to just die and then load back at Pascal's village. But you have to save there is really the significant thing. And you also need a bit of luck. Those sort of dead androids that you saw them kill, they have a chance to drop small recoveries, and those are used to heal you enough so that you can still use self-destruct, because if you're at 1 HP, you can use self-destruct, and self-destruct is used to sort of clip through a box, going back to the Resistance Camp.
The machines don't have feelings. You said that yourself.
Yeah, I guess.
And Mytherium with some early pauses. That's kind of a common thing that you're trying to pause, time to pause like
Hostiles.
exactly, and you're just like a couple frames too early. Probably loses like a second or two.
Alright, so he was 38.55 coming into Pascal's village, so I guess Tech doesn't have a timer, so we can't really see, but he's not too far behind. I'd probably say 20 seconds, 25 seconds.
Yeah, it's pretty close.
So here in the game, like MT was explaining, you're going and picking up a quest from Pascal and then running back to Resistance Camp, picking up the other item from Anemone, and then death warping yourself back to Pascal's village to finish the quest as fast as possible.
And here's the box clip nicely done. First try, you just do a plunge and then you hold self-destruct, and that'll it's easier to clip through when you do the self-destruct because it keeps the momentum from the plunge, but you don't have your sword out like hitting stuff or whatever. So now we get to see some amazing boar jumping. Which I think is sort of a pretty new discovery that if you get on a boar and you jump while running, it's actually a little faster than just running. Correct me if I'm wrong, Marvel.
Picture from this. Our satellite resolution isn't so hot. Hopefully they deploy some new satellites.
Oh yeah, thanks for the heads up, Marvel. Mytherium actually used a medium recovery instead of a small recovery. So I think he's going to need to get hit by the enemy twice, which isn't really a big deal. He's going over to this door here to cancel the operator dialogue. Then he's going to turn in the quest, and then, like we said, instead of running all the way back to Pascal's village, he's just going to basically death warp. Looks like his boar ran away, so he's just going to use a stubby. Oh, no.
He found it. Very nice.
Yep. So there's one hit, and then he's going to try to get hit by a stubby, or just get hit by the boar again. That works too.
The animals can be very annoying too, because sometimes your attacks against them will just trigger them to run off, and you'll just have to attack them again until you do eventually get the right type of attack for them to kill you.
Yeah, and the animal spawns are random, so sometimes you just can't find a boar, or there's one not very close to you to where running all the way to get the boar won't really save you any time overall. So
even more annoyingly is when you go to put a bait down between two animals and they proceed to circle around the bait off of each other's hitboxes and never actually pick it up.
Yeah, you'll see some sort of strange ritualistic circling. It's amazing when it happens with all three of them, and there's just three of them going in a circle. It's one of the more frustrating things in this game, I think, just because of how dumb it is.
So now Mytherium coming up on city angles. It's just, again, movement through the city ruins pretty fluidly, and then you're going to see him line up a skip to just completely skip one of the angles. I think this is probably one of the most busted boss fights in the game, just seeing as how you can just easily cheese both of them.
Yeah. And you saw what Six was talking about with the animals just running away when you shoot them. That happened to Tech. He shot the moose, and instead of attacking him, it just ran away. And he had to shoot it again and wait. So Mytherium having some more trouble with the route there. Like we said, it can be really janky trying to have good movement on that thing. So instead of fighting this angles, what he's going to do is kind of just do a clip out of bounds. It's sort of similar to the one earlier, the one in like prologue, where you're kind of in a corner and then you sort of jump into the ceiling and then let you clip out. You'll see what he does. He'll just like kind of hold forward, wait for the camera to change, and then he'll do a forward jump, and then he'll jump to like the left, and he should be able to clip out with that.
They just set the coordinates, so let's get
Unfortunately, doesn't get it. There's an invisible wall right on the other side of that rubble pile, and you can jump over it, although it's kind of an annoying window. You'll see, you just saw him execute the backup strat, which is that double lift off of one of the rocks there, and then dashing over the invisible wall. The danger with that is the camera angle is kind of wonky sometimes, and so if you dash in the wrong direction, you can actually fall off the top of the roof and really screw yourself up.
Oh yeah, if you fall off that bridge, it's a soft lock, so gotta be real careful.
You can get around it. I had it happen in a run the other day that I PB'd on, where you just run back up the ladder. Yep. I did lose probably about 2 minutes on it, because running up the ladder with the wonky camera angle and then only being able to really hit angles when he does punches. But you can still hit him through the invisible wall when he throws punches down.
Yeah, what happens is when you start the boss fight, there's an invisible wall behind you. So when you climb back up the ladder, you can't get through that invisible wall. So It's pretty annoying. And
So
then we're
it
just coming up
does
to
happen. It's not
negotiations.
the end of the world.
Sorry.
Oh no, sorry about that. No, I've explained what I wanted to. Yeah,
All right,
negotiate.
so they'll just you're just going to negotiations right now. Just trying to have good movement.
Now again, this is a completely timed section of the game, so when you do get in, you're going to want to kill Eve for your one level up out of him, and then you're pretty much free to do whatever you want until the end of the dialogue. A lot of runners will glitch out of bounds and run back down the tunnel that you see Mytherium traveling through right now to try and get some drop pickups or experience and just clear out the tunnel of all the stubbies in general.
Yeah, so just so you have an easier time on the way back, you can do dash swings. And there's also some materials that you need to upgrade Virtual's Contact to level 3. There are other items that you need. I think there's one item that you need like 3 or 4 of, and it's like a random drop. So it's not often that you can actually that you can upgrade it to level 3, but it is possible. So some people will just go ahead and pick up those materials just in case they get lucky with the other item drops.
Yorha, this is your commander. For the first time in centuries, we've intercepted a signal belonging to the aliens.
So again, still a pretty close race. I mean, Mytherium is edging a little bit ahead on each of these splits, so he's built up a decent lead now, but definitely within the range of still, if he hits a soft lock or dies, it's completely even race, and Tech will probably
Guess
take the
we'll see
lead.
once we get there. If we're lucky.
So you're going to see Mytherium try and get out of bounds here. He's going to evade when Eve attacks. If he'd attack. Yeah, okay, so he's going to evade, do a heavy attack, do a lift, heavy jump, heavy SD, heavy plunge, and get out of bounds. Then he's going to get up on the bridge and do some more vertical movement in order to get over the barrier that's in front of the door. Oh, yeah, the camera here is extremely wonky. Okay, looks like he got it. I don't think he has enough time to clear out all of the enemies. We'll see what he does, but he should be able to get rid of some.
They were wiped out centuries ago by us, the machines.
Wiped out?
And who knows, perhaps we'll wipe out the androids next. Machines are weapons capable of evolution. We can grow. We can become aware. Eventually, the intelligence within our
let me
network
actually
began to surpass that of our creators. You'd probably be surprised at how quickly it happened.
You destroyed your own... Back this way again? What a pain.
Should have noticed this earlier. Sorry about that.
2B, this is
Oh yeah, the audio switch.
Yeah, I switched over to Mytherium since he's in the lead.
We're
Call.
attempting to deploy them at other points as well.
Totally forgot about that. Sorry, guys.
About time we had access to those.
Care to fill me in?
Transporters?
So
Yeah,
neither-
so
They let you transfer
Sorry,
your
you go ahead.
consciousness to a
you'll see
temporary body.
Mytherium wasn't able to clear out all of the enemies, so he couldn't just do dash swings throughout the whole part.
So now we're just getting our saves, and we've unlocked transportation on the save points, so we'll be using that pretty frequently in the run now. We're just transporting up to Bunker, where we pick up a little bit of dialogue, and then we'll be going back to Pascal's village to do all of our weapon or like pot buying, equipping, and then we'll be off to the next part of the game, but that's still pretty far away. Only thing you can really do to save time here is there's a dialogue skip at the top of the elevator where you can talk to 9S, do a standard dialogue skip, and miss a little bit of the dialogue here. You'll see Mytherium going for it right now.
Why don't we rest a little bit, 2B? It's been a while.
I'll rest if I feel like it.
Okay, so going to Pascal's village, like Six said, they're going to do some buying and selling. They're going to sell their small buffs, and they're going to sell the machine cores, which are worth 10,000 each. So that's basically where all of the funds come from, is the machine cores from the defeated bosses. And they're also going to sell some plug-in chips as well. So they're going to sell like Minimap and some other stuff. Nothing that's really important or necessary.
Where it
It'll be interesting to see here too what they pick up in terms of defensive pots. A lot of runners will not pick up defensive pots, but some, as a safety mechanism, will grab those on top of the offensive pots. We'll see if how they want to play it out.
Wow, looks like Mytherium got a lot of crit chips. He got a very good crit +1, so he should be able to equip probably like 3 of those. Okay, so he's actually doing his equips now. Some people equip right after buying, some equip after the sort of shopping center. So he's gonna do... okay, yeah, he got 3, so he's at 5% crit, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong.
That is a very good, very good chip setup.
It's possible to get a couple +2s, but that's just luck, and it's not incredibly common. Plus 5% is pretty good.
When do you think you'll be willing to call me Nines?
9S works just fine.
Well, yeah, but...
Marble's claiming that Tech's gonna get a VC3.
this job can be pretty rough sometimes.
We'll
huh?
see if he knows what
We
he's
don't
talking
get to
about or not.
choose our assignments, and you should work on keeping your opinions in check. Your aren't allowed to be emotional, remember?
I think some of
Did
us
Tech
are better
get
at
defensive
that than
buffs? I didn't see.
This must be the
I
commercial
wasn't
structure
paying attention
Pascal
either. I
was
was
talking about.
focused on
Records say it was
explaining.
once a
Well,
facility
we'll
known as
find out the
Shoppers.
first time that he opens the menu, so that's fine. I know
No.
personally I don't get them. I'm not sure if you do or not.
I do, because I'm still not fully comfortable with combat, and getting 2-shot can really screw me up sometimes.
Oh yeah, that's fair. I've died a lot in recent races due to not having defense buffs.
Yeah.
Oh, we didn't explain taunting. So if you mash flashlight, you can get the enemies to go in sort of like a frenzy state, where I believe their attack is buffed by 50% and their defense is lowered by 50%. I believe it's 50%. Correct me if
I'm pretty
wrong.
sure it's 50%. Yeah, and then
Looks like the forest is just ahead.
you definitely want to keep all the bosses and enemies taunted. Certain enemies in the start of the game don't matter because you're one-hitting them anyways, but definitely for every boss, you want to keep that taunt up 100% of the time to optimize your damage.
Yeah, and that definitely makes it riskier to where bosses can two-shot you. Sometimes there are some attacks where they'll hit you twice in quick succession, and it's very easy to die from those.
You just be careful.
I will to be.
Especially if you're using slow-mo, for example, you can't use the quick item menu. So it's possible to like get stuck like shooting a laser, and you can't heal until that animation's over. There's a lot of things that can go wrong.
Don't listen to what they're saying to
Oh, the amount of times I've died to Eve stage 3 because of buffing.
Yep. So you'll see Mytherium plunging over to this bridge here. Just skipping some intended routing, I guess, and then going up on the side of this mountain here. Looks like okay. He was able to stay up there. That terrain is kind of weird. It likes to sort of push you off, or there's not very many places where you can actually stay on it. And this is what we call Rainbow Road.
Yeah, it's Rainbow Road.
Yeah,
the Mario
and
Kart.
that's just skipping, sort of going around the side. You can do sort of a like void out warp to get there, but it's faster to just do like that horizontal aerial movement to make it over. And he's doing a pod launch here to try and clip out of bounds. Nicely done. If he didn't get it on that attempt, there's a moose right behind him, and you will auto target that.
Yeah, I was worried about it when he did shoot the moose as he was coming in. So now you're going to see him doing castle skips. You essentially just go outside of the... You go outside castle and you just use the windows instead to essentially skip going back and forth through all of the castle. You probably have to run back and forth 2 or 3 times. It takes a lot of time, so definitely a huge skip when you can get it.
And you'll see Mytherium do a double jump pod launch here, and that's just to get as close to the cradle as he can. If you don't do that, you'll have, again, that very slow walk.
An android. A Yorha-type android.
Alert.
And then now we have the A2 fight. A2,
Annihilation
it can be like a difficult fight. Sometimes she'll just choose to like run away and do the the horizontal and like vertical attacks, I guess you would say.
Definitely a hard boss for people learning the run, myself included. I still have issues on A2 just because of the amount of attacks she throws out. It can be very daunting.
She's being very nice to Mytherium right now. He accidentally did an evade heavy attack, which like launched her up, but besides that, that was a very good fight.
Yeah, very clean. He got it to end on the left side, so cutting down his running time too. And you're going to see him do A2 skip here. So normally when you play the game through, A2 jumps out of the window and you're told to follow her. If you go to the other side of the room, you get a trigger that sends you back to tell you to go follow A2. But by doing a series of high jumps, we can jump over that trigger and essentially run back to the transporter that we came from, skipping the dialogue and going back to Pascal's village.
And nice job by Tech as well, getting Rainbow Road there. Looks like he does the root clip on the opposite side. You sort of dash into it, and then you do a bare fist punch, which is the light attack, and you can clip out that way too.
It'll be faster if you just take a
Looks like unfortunately he's going to void out here. That's the one bad thing about doing it from that angle, is turning around is a little bit hard, whereas if you do the pod launch, your camera is already at a pretty good angle, and you can just kind of hold forward and not have to turn around.
Now, the other thing to note about the A2 dialogue skip that Mytherium did, that Win Super's pointing out in the chat, is he used slow-mo as he was running away from A2's chamber towards the transporter, because enemies do spawn on the other side of the room, and by using the pod slow-mo, you can slow down their run. If they get too close to the transporter automatically locks, and you would have to leave the area for them to de-aggro and go back to their original positions and use the transporter.
So Mytherium just went over there to the corner to interrupt that dialogue with like a shorter, like 2 dialogue box message, and then he's going to sort of jump between these 2 machines in order to flip out of bounds and go down to Flooded City. So he's going to do 1 plunge, do a 2nd plunge. He's going to do a jump, a pod spin, heavy jump, and you are required to get that cutscene before you can progress. So now he's going to plunge down to Flooded City, and good job. And then he'll just have to fight like 3 enemies, and then the fidget spinner pops out, which is definitely the most annoying part of this section.
Yeah, but come on, 2V. It still feels good.
So we'll see how his fidget spinner goes. You kind of want to lock on, taunt it, and do some slow-mo while you're charging the laser. Looks like he just... Okay, that wasn't too bad. I'm not sure what he was going for exactly. I'm not sure if that's something that he normally does. Normally you can sort of just lift and do a few aerial attacks and a plunge while you're charging up a double laser. But that was still a good section.
So now we're coming into the notorious Groon section of the game. It is the longest boss by far. It's not like any other boss because you are in the flight units for the entire fight, and there's not a whole bunch you can do. It's just one giant shoot 'em up, and you're just going to try and clear the waves as fast as possible. It takes about 15 minutes for this entire section of the game.
Yeah, if you need to use the bathroom or get a beverage, now's the time.
There are slight time optimizations you can do coming up on the EMP cores. Just cycling through them properly, you can save yourself a couple cycles. But yeah, we're looking for grunt skip. It would be very nice.
We should definitely put a bounty on Grunskip.
I'm not sure if you were around for the first race, but we already did.
Oh, really nice. Cool.
$1,300 and a pizza from Tech.
Really? I'll definitely add to that.
Yeah, Tech's gonna make curry pizza. It'll be really good. I'll ship it to you.
Attention, this is Carrier Blue Ridge 2. Requesting
Friendly units in range.
And then we see Tech coming up to the flooded, or the
Our escort ship
cutscene
has
triggered
taken
by the
damage and is
teleporter. He
unable
got
to
it too.
engage. We're currently resisting with all remaining support fighters, but we can't hold them off for long. I repeat, this is
I don't know if that'll work or not.
We need immediate backup from any
Okay, he's
available
doing
android
some
forces.
additional pod spins that... Yeah, okay, he got it. And Tech did get defense buffs as well, so you'll see him using those. That means it's going to be really hard for him to die in the later part of the game. Whereas there is a chance for Mytherium to have some bad things happen.
I'm picking up a large-scale enemy inbound. Looks to be 2.8 clicks southwest of us.
Tech having a little bit of trouble with the fidget spinner, but it was kind of nice to him in terms of attacks. It just kind of sat there, which is always good. And Mytherium is on the Goliath flyer here, and basically you just use a buff, use the pod program twice, and just spam pod fire and heavy attacks until your cooldown is over, and then 2 more pod programs will finish off this sort of mini boss here.
No, it would be really interesting to see how the run pans out with the Grune skip, because the amount of farming that you do in this area for XP, we'd probably be 2 to 3 levels behind, I want to say, after Grune if you skipped it entirely.
I'm not actually sure. I think maybe Marbles would know.
I think I won't go into specifics because I'm not 100% certain, but I'm pretty sure you get 2 levels out of Grune.
Oh yeah, one thing to mention in this section is that the enemies that 9S kills they don't give you experience for that. So you want to sort of kill them all as fast as possible, just so 9S doesn't steal your experience, basically.
And there is options that you can set. Some runners prefer different options when you launch the game up, but you can set how your partner acts if you want them to play passively and do nothing, so they don't steal your experience. You can do that. Some people use long range as well. All comes down to personal preference.
Destroy the generator quickly.
Looks like Mytherium actually got the sort of bug where the flying enemies don't spawn, so that's probably the best opportunity in this run for a bathroom break for sure. We're not sure why this happens, but sometimes just some of these sections, no enemies will spawn. It's incredibly weird. There's also a bug where 9S will like sort of get zipped off somewhere else, and then you won't see him for like the rest of the segment. It's a quality game.
If this thing reaches land, we're screwed.
I've actually never seen this happen to me in any of my runs, but I'm not surprised that it's happened. There are definitely a lot of buggy things in this game.
I believe it actually happened to me in the race earlier today in the section that Mytherium is at right now. Not the earlier section with all the lasers, but the section where you're coming up to the first core here.
Unfortunately, he is going to be missing out on all of the XP from the mobs he's missing, but you know, he gets a good bathroom break, so you know, who's really winning here?
So this first core here, you just shoot it with pod fire and spam lights. It takes about like 5 or 6 light attacks along with pod fire. And the center core takes 2 pod programs. The next 2, for whatever reason, you can kill the middle core with only 1 pod fire. So the optimization there is sort of the last small core. You'll use a pod program on that, and then you'll use the second pod program on the middle section. No clue why they decided to make the first one you fight have more HP than the last 2, but that's just how it is.
It's got an electromagnetic barrier over its whole body.
Oh, so
Mytherium
you-
practicing his spins. He's got his hands well rested from that bathroom break.
Okay, so apparently you can actually make it happen by evading into a certain spot. That makes sense.
Take it from here.
Let's leave this area to the
And then from here,
I
you
have an
just
idea.
kind of get a nice
You and
little
I should meet
cutscene
up
break.
at the spot
You
I
have
just
to
marked.
walk over to this mortar, and then you'll see. It's pretty straightforward.
We've got mortars lining the shoreline here. All the EMP shielding in the world won't help against close-range mortar fire.
Got it.
And people have different
I'll help in.
timings on this, I guess. You can like just spam left trigger the entire time, and the section will work out fine. But I think you can save, I don't know, maybe like a second or two just by waiting and timing it properly. I'm
That's right.
sure Marble knows the right timing. Yeah, it looks like Mytherium's doing sort of the optimal shooting here.
Alright, so now onto the final section of Grun for Mytherium. It's just taking out, is it 2 or 3 EMP cores? I can't remember.
I think it's 2.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, 2 EMP cores, and then we'll be going on back to the exciting part of the game. We've got a lot of precision skips coming up towards the end here. Copied city clip, for example.
Yeah, there's a lot of difficult strats kind of loaded in that section of the game with copied city and
I
factory.
think I have another idea. You keep that thing right where it is.
That is
okay?
definitely the point for an upset to happen, which is interesting for the races for sure, because you leave it right to the end, where some stuff can really hit the fan, and you don't know if you're gonna screw it up or not.
Yeah, some soft locks are definitely possible, and as well, it's the PC port of this game is special, so there's also, that's kind of like the X factor as well, is it's crashing.
Yep, for sure. I've had enough runs crash out towards the end of the game, so hopefully that doesn't happen to Mytherium here.
EMP unit on that thing's back. Otherwise, they're just going to go off course.
It's hard to say whether he has enough of a lead, and he'd have to have a save pretty close to where the game crashed for him to be actually able to relaunch and come back and finish the race in time.
Yeah, doing the safety saves at the teleporters that you have to access anyways, pretty good idea in races. I don't know, what does it lose you? Probably like 10 or 20 frames to save.
Yeah, it's nothing.
So the second core, you're going to see once he destroys this left node, he's going to go over and use... Oh, okay, never mind. I'm wrong, he's not going to do that. But the big center section only requires one pod program instead of 2, so you can throw that little optimization in there if you want.
Again, I've said this a lot of times, but it's still a decently close race. I think Tech is probably about somewhere between 2 to 3 minutes behind, I'd have to guess.
Yeah,
but
that
again, that's
sounds
still
about
within the range of, you know, a death or a soft lock, easily returning that to being in Tech's favor. All just depends where you hit the soft lock and how far back your save point was.
So Mytherium's coming up on the final core here. You'll see him do a heavy attack, which sort of just sends out the shockwave that just pretty much one-shots everything. It's very useful in certain spawns. But it's very, very slow. The wind-up time's very slow, and the cooldown's incredibly long. So most of the time, light attacks are better. Okay, so he chooses to use the pod program on the very first core. The amount of time you have to kill both of the nodes on the sides it's pretty tight, so it's possible to have one node not die, and then when the thing rotates, it rotates like way too far, and then the two that are left you can't hit, and then you have to wait for it to rotate again. So good cores by Mytherium.
We're going to see Mytherium using the drowning zones in Flooded City to essentially push himself ahead. He's going to be plunging into a couple of the drown zones where they think he was in another spot, and they'll transport him just a little bit closer to where he's actually trying to go. Saves a little bit of time.
And there's kind of the second void out. And now he is going to do copied city clip. Instead of sort of leaving the sewers and kind of running around like the rubble, he's going to just clip out and then plunge down to where the elevator to copied city is.
And this can be a pretty daunting skip, especially if you go for Virtuous Contract 3. It makes the setup a lot more difficult and harder to hit. Lots of methods of doing this. It looks like Mytherium's opting for the keyboard mouse method.
And he got it first try, which is excellent.
Very nice.
That's an incredibly tight angle to clip out of there.
It's pretty exciting that he got it too.
Mouse and keyboard is a viable strat for that, just because holding W is just a pure up input, so that makes things a lot more consistent. But people do it with the controller as well. And now that we're in copied city, if you've casually played through this game, you'll notice that before you actually fight Adam, he talks for a long time. But we can actually skip that and get to the fight faster. So he's going to just run forward in this corner, do a lift heavy, jump heavy, plunge. He got it, then clip out of bounds there, and he's going to go back and bring the elevator back up in order to cancel Adam's dialogue by stepping into the elevator and triggering a different dialogue. That's a lot shorter.
It's grand, don't you think? Almost spiritual.
It's definitely a good clip if you can get it. Most runners do it just because you don't have to worry about getting hit by anything that Adam throws out in his phase 1, and then again skipping all of the dialogue, because there's no way you can speed it up. It's timed until he's done his dialogue. You can kill him multiple times over, and it'll just go right to the end of the dialogue.
So nice shot by Mytherium. You saw him wait until a very specific part of the dialogue to go into the elevator and then just dash out. There's actually like 3 different sets of dialogue, but it's only really worth skipping the last one. And then here on Adam, you just have typical combat, slow-mo, double damage glitch. Get him to threshold as soon as possible. And then he's just going to run circles around him and then shoot him one more time after the dialogue's over. Yeah, for some reason there are like some bosses where you reach the threshold, the phase threshold, and their HP bar goes away, but you still have to attack them again. It's kind of silly, I think. That's just how it is. It is possible to die to Adam here. He does a lot of damage.
Yep, just getting the wrong attack pattern and getting hit and not getting a pod out quick enough, or if you're trying to pod slow-mo on top of your damage glitch and getting hit, definitely puts you at risk of dying.
Yeah, Adam can do this attack where he just shoots these projectiles, and he can shoot them in pretty quick succession, so it's very easy to get hit by 2 and just pretty much die within like half a second.
So now we see Mytherium. He did it very efficiently, but there's a dialogue skip from the commander. that you can do. Normally, you'd have to wait for all the dialogue to go through, and then you can check the email and start heading off to factory. But by going up to the computer girl in the corner, you can trigger a dialogue and walk out of the dialogue zone to skip all of it. Some runners will opt to go to buy skill salves from Devola and Popula over in the corner. It looks like Mytherium has opted not to.
So Tech got copied city first try, which is excellent, but he still had to wait for the elevator to load, which is pretty funny.
Well, 2 days ago I was contacted by some machines that disconnected themselves from the network. They wanted to discuss a peace treaty.
No kidding.
Apparently, they're seeking to form an alliance of some kind with our village.
If that's what they want, why don't they move in?
I believe they're working on building a colony of their own.
You don't say.
Indeed. Apparently, it's located in the abandoned factory. I can give you the coordinates if you'd like.
Yeah, PS4 is pretty handicapped in a direct RTA comparison with PC.
Yep, the hard drive load times definitely slow down most of the loading sections and things like the elevator that we just saw there. In comparison to if you're running Nier on PC, have it on an SSD, your load screens are going to be a lot faster. For PC, it doesn't matter as much since we play loadless anyways, but in an RTA race, it definitely makes a difference.
And looks like Tech got mansplaining skip first try, I think. So that skips a lot of Adam dialogue, as we mentioned before. So the section right here, you have to wait for that robot to open the elevator for you. So a lot of people like to go here and just clip out of bounds and have some fun while they're waiting. Mytherium clipping up into the higher level section that you'll see a bit later on.
And this section now that Mytherium's coming up on is a couple of decently tricky skips. Not the end of the world. The first one being 9S. All right, well, we'll see if he does a Mook's room clip or not. You have the option essentially here to either kill all the Mooks for the experience, or you can clip out of the room and get far enough, void out, despawn all the Mooks, and then just go to the elevator immediately. You are missing out on the EXP, but I think it is about 8 seconds faster.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he's going to do that considering Grun, where he missed out on a lot of flyer experience.
For sure, yeah, because it is one of those skips that you do if you have hit all your sort of EXP goals that you need, like SD and Atom Pit, Grun, negotiations, tunnel, all those things. You can get enough to get level 20 by Atom. Looks like he is opting to go for it anyways.
So he's just going to clip out of bounds, void out. That should despawn the Mooks, and then that should let him just go right to the elevator. So later on, after you leave factory on Bokushi, if you SD at the end there, you can make up some experience. So that's what I'm expecting him to do there. Being like a level below where you would want to be, it's not that bad. It doesn't lose that much time, but it is definitely slower. But not by much, but.
So now we're going to see Mytherium attempting 9S room clip. It's essentially the same deal as Mook's room clip. By getting out and voiding out, you can re-trigger the elevator to spawn in, use the elevator. Normally you would have to go through the entire stage and it would take about 1 minute and 30 seconds, so definitely a very handy clip to have.
And then here's the second part of Factory, where Mytherium's going to clip out of bounds, fall down, and he's going to void out, but right before he voids out, he's going to hit a trigger that's needed to progress.
The door's open.
So he got the trigger, but he didn't void out, so That means he's going to have to take the intended route, and this is pretty risky because there are these big crushers that he has to go through, and those do one-shot you. So it is possible for him to die here.
Definitely
if he's not
lost
careful.
runs here before, plenty of times.
Oh yeah.
Especially trying to, dash swing through.
Yeah, so he's going to opt to go above the crushers, and that's really just to make sure that he doesn't die, which is probably the right decision since he has a pretty significant lead.
He does not want to play around with the crushers whatsoever.
Yeah, and the crushers, they're a little bit weird too. Like sometimes it hits like your toe and kills you, and sometimes it looks like it's going to hit you, but it doesn't. So it can be kind of strange sometimes. So it's best to just avoid those whenever possible.
Exit route secured.
Thanks.
Other things can happen as well too, where you're running through the crushers and you might be trying to dash swing through carefully, and some of the suicide mooks will drop down, and you'll end up dash swinging into them and dying to a crusher. Just an all around area you don't want to be in, going through Deep Factory.
And Mytherium was able to pick up a little bit more experience there from that mook that was just kind of lying against the fence. I think that gives something like 40 experience or something, which is a lot just for just one enemy, and it's very easy to kill. It doesn't attack you.
Now we're going to see Mytherium starting up the Soshi boss. You'll see he went to the bridge and he did a couple lifts and aerials. You can essentially get yourself stuck up in an infinite falling state at the top of this bridge, and you can either spam aerial heavy, or you can just hold your glide and you'll just hover there. This is unskippable dialogue while you're waiting for 9S to turn off the power, where Soshi pretty much just gets free attacks on you, so doing this, you just don't have to worry about it. You can rest your hands for a little bit.
Yeah, and this also has the benefit of having Soshi just sort of stay still in this spot, which you kind of want to kill him as close to the bridge as possible, so you'll have your back to the bridge during the fight, and after he's dead, you kind of just turn around and you're already at the bridge. So that saves some time too.
So now we're going to see Tech going through Mook's clip, Mook's room. We'll see if he gets a smooth Deep Factory section. It can save him, I want to say, about 30-40 seconds, so definitely a good point to catch up here if he gets a smooth Deep Factory skip.
Okay, you can just ignore what I said. Mytherium sort of went around the backside of Soshi.
Now, one thing to note about this Soshi fight is you want to avoid attacking the legs, because if you blow out one of his legs, he falls down for about 10 seconds, and then you have to, it's a damage threshold, you have to wait for him to stand up and go into his final sort of vacuum rolling form before you can actually finish him off. So hitting one of those legs will be a time loss on Soshi.
Actually, it seems like the game always spawns you right by the bridge, so disregard what I said. I don't know what I'm talking about. You're seeing Tech here. Pascal did not want to get into the elevator. So while he was waiting for that, he just got some more experience from those mooks. Looks like Mytherium's going for a clip here. We call it the Shabu clip, named after its person who found it. He looks like he just abandoned that. He's gonna just take the stairs. This section, you'll see he went back up. The camera changes are a bit weird, and sometimes the direction that you think you should be holding isn't actually the correct direction. But looks like he's through, and then he's just gonna do the same skip that we saw in Prologue.
Tech getting a very clean 9S room clip. The time save is going to be up here on the second and third parts of Deep Factory skip, though. We'll see if he can get the trigger and void out properly.
First try clip. Let's see if he can get the trigger and the void out.
Looks like he got it. Now this rail up here that he is on is quite annoying. If you go too far to the right, you get stuck in an infinite falling state, and if you go too far to the left, you will void back into the map and have to void out again, as you can see he just did.
Oh yeah, and he clipped back in bounds, which is unfortunate. I know at least what I do is I kind of line the camera up, and then I just do what he's doing right there, where I jump, do a pod spin, then land, and then dash.
I see.
You can too, if you do go into the infinite falling state on the right rail, you can dash back in line too, so it's not as bad as it's made out to be, but still very annoying to stay centered. Usually just easier to pod glide and
Let's move.
just get to the other side that way. But all in all, he hit the skip pretty clean, so he should catch up a little bit here.
Why are their numbers increasing like this?
And then Mytherium's just going back to the resistance
Try
camp.
contacting the bunker via laser relay system.
Just have some combat coming up in there, nothing major.
Then this last section of the game is really a boss rush. You end up fighting 4 bosses right at the end, all back to back. So you really want to make sure you have enough pots to make it through. If you forget to buy pots, you're in for a rough time because you'll have to play super safe. Fortunately, neither of our runners have done that. It's a pretty newbie mistake.
And then we come to this sort of like 2D platforming section, and all you do is just taunt and throw out damage glitches. Yeah, sometimes it can be really annoying if you let enemies get to the left side of you. Usually what I do is I sort of dash to the left a bit when I see them spawning in, just to keep them all on the right side.
Yeah, likewise, because as soon as you get some on the left side, then your damage glitches start going backwards, and it gives the time for the stubbies to charge up their spins, and just makes clearing just not a good time.
It looks like Tech attacked the leg. I'm not sure if that was intentional or not, but that makes it at least easier to fight him. There's like no risk of dying when he's in that down state.
Now you'll see Mytherium on Bokushi now. He goes in. All the water around is electrocuted. You essentially just get hit by it so that you don't take any damage from it for 10 seconds. Clears Bokushi really quickly, and he's going to go for the SD here to clear out the rest of the stubbies and get that experience he missed out on in Grun.
Yeah, so nice, very nice Bokushi.
Let's take this bastard down.
That can be kind of an annoying boss sometimes. There are some attacks that are pretty annoying that can kill you very easily, but looks like he was pretty nice.
Now we'll see Mytherium using the hill to his advantage on Core 2, or Core 1, sorry. The Core will have some attacks if you don't clear it fast enough where it'll float above the ground and it'll be out of range of your damage glitches. To counteract that, we just kind of pull him over towards the side of a hill, and that way you can clear it pretty easily with just normal damage glitching, not have to worry about using any pod programs or anything like that.
Oh yeah, dealing with that core when it's sort of when it's in the air above you is incredibly annoying. Okay, and Tech says that was not intentional. Sometimes it just happens. Looks like he clipped back up into the above section. That's not a huge time loss, really.
Thankfully, he didn't. He did save himself from the void out, but still a couple seconds of time loss. But I think he more than made up for it with his Deep Factory skips.
They sealed off the entrance to the village and are trying to hold them off, but with these
And Mytherium's just sort of taking out these bipeds that are sort of attacking Pascal's village, I guess.
Now, unfortunately for Tech, he is 2 bosses behind at this point, and there's not much in terms of being able to screw up these end bosses unless you die, or Core 2 for some reason breaks and falls on the fence here.
Pretty good. You can actually damage that core while it's in the air. You saw Mytherium doing sort of the slowdown and throwing out damage glitches, and that can actually hit it when it's like flying around. So by doing that, you don't have to wait for it to drop. Sometimes you just can't get enough damage in. That's normal, but it does save you some time.
So Mytherium now coming into the last boss of the game, Eve. He's got multiple stages. We'll see if he can get the stage skip off.
Everything must die!
Be a nice little time save.
So Eve has 4 phases. In the first phase, you're kind of just throwing out damage glitches. There is one attack that you want to avoid. So once he gets him down to like probably around half health, you'll see him start using slow-mo. Or he'll just use it the entire fight. That works as well. Oh no. Yeah, that's what you don't want to happen.
Unfortunately, Mytherium getting platforms here. Very annoying because you have to get up to Adam's height, damage him, and then it'll eventually come down.
Luckily, he already had a lot of damage on him, which I think helps make that shorter. I'm not positive, but it could.
I believe it does, yeah.
Okay, cool. And he is attempting to sort of do the fast version of this phase 2, where you just sort of out-damage the healing, I guess.
I'm going to try hacking into Eve and shutting him down. Back me up, 2B.
On it.
Enemy unit cut off from network functionality.
Yeah, I think that just allows 9S to start hacking earlier, I guess? I'm not entirely sure.
So now we go into the second last phase of Eve, where he starts flying around. All his attacks are ranged. This is where having skill salves would kind of start to come in handy. You're going to use a lot of lasers and pod fire, and you'll see Mytherium is also using pod launches to get up close and do some aerial attacks on Eve to try and speed things up.
Yeah, I think like the optimal strats is when he throws out the projectiles to just pod launch through them, so you're directly next to Eve, and then you just do like a heavy and then a plunge, and then you pod program him on the way down. I think that's the best way to do it, but it is more difficult than sort of like keeping your distance and just firing off lasers at him.
Definitely a risky strat too. If you do it on the wrong attack pattern, like that one you see, for example, and you pod launch right into it, you're going to take a lot of damage really quick, and you've got to be very quick on getting your pods out, otherwise you are going to get 2-shot. Or 3-shot, I guess, because it'll do about 95% of your health bar. Now onto this last phase, you're just going to try and keep him taunted, not really worry about the attacks he's throwing out if you have enough health pods to deal with it.
Yeah, basically the strat here is just hope that Eve stays close to you. You can see when he's very far away, your pod fire, when it's locked on, is not very accurate, so you'll see Mytherium just sort of aim manually, which he's used to anyway, being a very hard runner, where you don't even have access to the lock-on feature.
And ideally, what Mytherium did, you want to be somewhat below Adam when he pops, just to trigger the dialogue immediately and skip the cutscene.
It's okay. I can always reload.
Congratulations to Myth for winning this one. Pretty solid time.
That exists at this very moment.
Guess so, but we can't upload this.
Yeah,
code
132.
today into the bunker. So
Gets the job done in this race. I'm kind of curious to see what time Tech is at right now.
coming.
It would be very nice to know, for sure, but unfortunately we don't get the RTA timers.
Can you hear me? Our village is under...
Pascal, come in, Pascal.
Shit.
I don't know if Mytherium has a RTA timer or not. I'm not sure.
Interesting route Tech's taking here, instead of running along the ground.
Yeah, that's sort of the route that everybody used to take like months ago, but I'm not sure in the timing between taking that above route and then just going the bottom route along the side of the building.
For sure. Looks like we've got Mytherium in here now.
They're here too.
Hey,
Congrats, dude.
Congrats.
thank you. I don't know if I'm echoing or not.
Nope, you're fine.
I don't know if the stream is hearing double audio though.
You can just mute your mic audio in OBS.
Oh geez, that was a really crappy run. I had spaghettied on freaking Bovor or something, but A2, that was probably my fastest A2 ever.
Oh yeah, that A2
Was
fight
so clean.
was really good. So was it just like some general nerves, or?
Will it stop the rest?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. That strategy that I was doing was my normal A2 strategy for normal mode, not very hard. Very hard goes like all the way out away from her. I just went balls to the wall in front of her.
Right.
Everything must die!
But I find it really silly how I can do in Desert Housing Skip blind platformless, but I can't freaking do I forget what I messed up on, but like I remember comparing that to something else that I fucked up. I don't really remember what.
I don't really remember anything major. It was just like small movement stuff, it seemed.
Yeah, I was pausing too early on way too many cutscenes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and those vines were not working out for you.
Oh yeah, the vines. That looks like Tech got the quick phase 2 as well.
Nice.
He's having an actual really solid ending because he did the Zero Cycle Core 2.
Myth, is that a loadless timer, or is it real time, or?
I don't know which one they're using on stream, but I have both.
Okay.
My RTA and loadless is still running.
Okay. I believe that it's loadless, but I'm not positive. We'll see.
So for everyone watching, we do have a couple extra races coming up today after this. There's one immediately after, coming right up, or two immediately right after, and then there's a race later in the evening that I'll be racing in. I think the rest of the matches are all going to stay on Speed Gaming 3.
Best of luck, 6, in your race later, by the way.
Thank you. Hopefully I don't get too nervous. It'll be definitely interesting with Icefire because I don't know how much he's been running the game recently.
Oh, you're racing Ice? Oh.
Yeah.
That's going to be an interesting matchup.
It'll be interesting for sure.
I honestly haven't seen Ice run in forever. I think he's done. I think he's done a couple of runs recently, but they're probably offline runs.
Yeah, he doesn't do a lot of like full like run attempts.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm not sure if he's going to be rusty at all. I don't know what type of player he is. Maybe he just has the perma muscle memory, but it'll be interesting for sure seeing, you know, one of the more veteran runners, and then I've only been running for a month.
Oh yeah, Icefire had world record for a couple months back last year. I think it was like May, sometime in May to the.
I've actually got the exact
like
date.
The end of June. Or
it
something
was
like that?
he set the record down on June 5th, right when we started this tournament in 2017, and he held that record until July 30th when Canaris passed it up, and Canaris has held it since.
Yeah, I think he went from a 141 down to the 136.40 that held for a couple months, and a lot of people consider it like the best run of that era, just because that was before a lot of some of the like out of bounds skips and stuff.
Yeah,
I remember watching Icefire's 136 and being like, wow. Because that was right around the time that I had finished my casual playthrough of Nier and was blown away by what was possible in the run. Even at that time. GG.
GG, man.
GG.
It's quite the interesting run to watch for sure. Both of you got the missed trigger on Auto Scroller Coaster, but you know, glad to see you both went for it.
Yeah, I was not gonna go for it, and then I looked down at the stream and I saw Myth taking that path, and I was like, well, I gotta go for it then, aren't I?
You're such a ballsy guy.
Oh no, did live split? Okay, never mind.
And both of you got first try copied city as well, which is pretty amazing.
Really?
Yep.
I know I had some difficulty on the plunge afterwards, but
we'll just say the clip out was first try.
Yeah. Oh, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, there was like quite a lot of stuff that was pretty spaghetti. Pascal was horrible. The animals were pretty bad too. But you know, those things happen. It's whatever.
Oh, did you get a boar, Tech?
No, I had a moose, and I think all three of them were laying down. And by the time I'd spoken to Anemone, it decided to lay down again.
Oof.
What was your final time, by the way? Do you know?
I'm not sure. I didn't have my splits up. I think it was like a 1:37-ish, maybe something there.
Your PB is like a 130, mid 137. So
Yeah, I think I've had a more recent one that's been submitted now, but that's like a 135 RTA, so like a 132 loadless or something.
Oh, okay, cool.
But that was a run with VC3, and like VC3 is insane, dude. Insane.
Yeah.
Oh, did you get it this run?
No, I didn't get it
I
this
didn't
run.
even bother. I've rarely...
2 dented plate shot.
Oh. I have yet to incorporate it.
Dude, it's so good. You'll love it so much.
I'm like kind of intimidated to learn all that like roller coaster stuff and all the VC stuff. And all the spear dashing.
Well, do you guys have anything else to say about the runs, or?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, no, I don't really have anything to say. That was just really good fun. Thanks, guys, for commentating, and thanks, Myth, for the race. That was
thank you.
Awesome,
Likewise.
dude.
Yeah, great race, guys. Thanks.
Yep, no problem. Thanks for the race. So next up, we've got Archmage and Shabu. Archmage as well being a newer runner, Shabu being more of a veteran, but it should be an interesting match to watch nonetheless. Mytherium will be back in here for commentary, and we'll try to get that one going as soon as possible because it's going to be a little tight on schedule. Just another big thank you to everybody from Speed Gaming for helping us host, and all of the moderators in the Nier Automata community for helping run this tournament. If you guys are ever interested in running this game, we've got a very active Discord community with guides and resources.